Everything connected here. Oh, I wrote a new story last night. Anybody see it? I wrote another story last night, a new one. So if you're on my Facebook, just go check it out. It's called "The Whole World Is on Fire." All right, wait till we're breathing here. We may have lost a little audience because we're a little behind. Who knows who Greg Locke is? Have you heard his testimony about his? I don't know. I guess you call it a dream or experience or whatever about the fire on the heads of the people. No. Oh, you need to listen to that. Also, the Dana Coverstone dream about the fire on the heads of the people goes right along with what Kenneth Hagin saw back in the 60s, that America would just almost turn completely communist. And he asked God, is there no remedy? Is there no cure? Is there no hope? And God showed him fire coming down and setting on the heads of the people. So, I think we're looking for, if we talk about cyclical times, I think we're talking about, Pentecost again. All right. We have movement. All right. I like to listen to people who study deep, go deep, break words back in, down to the English is a common language, but it's a pretty poor language when it comes to pictograph and definition, stuff like that. There's a Greek word about this long, and it means bringing order out of chaos. It's the same word that we use for cosmetics.
Notice the men are like this, right?
I better, yeah. I'm going to hide behind the screen here. I've listened to Chuck Missler tell that joke so many times. That's a Chuck Missler joke. All right. Hey, who knows what the term hypocrite actually means?
Yes, I do.
What's it mean?
Pretender.
Loosely be called an actor. Yeah. I've discovered years ago that people that play a part on TV in real life, they're totally different. I've talked to people who, you would think that you would want to grow up with Andy Griffith as your dad, wouldn't you? People who knew him personally said he was mean. Barney played the dunderhead. Barney was a drunkard and a womanizer. Just a different deal. Everybody, Betty White passed away, and pray that she was right when she left. But everybody fell in love with Betty White from the Golden Girls. But you fell in love with a person that don't exist. That's an actor. You look at her interviews, and they loved her because she was the picture of a grandma, but she was super irreverent and pretty raw. And so, be careful that when you fall in love with an actor, remember you're falling in love with somebody. Sister Seabright said something once that resonated with me so good. She said you can do whatever you want, but she said who you are at home is who you are. You can come here and shout and jump and do all this stuff, and then go home and cuss the wife out and kick the dog and throw the cat across the room. And I hardly think that you're who you portray yourself to be. So just remember, everybody's there's Tim Allen. He's played on a couple of sitcoms, but I like mostly the personality he plays on TV, but I would probably not like him in person at all because he's a paid actor. He's performing a role that people want to see. It's funny, they pick people who are just opposites. On the Last Man Standing show, the girl who's the tomboy in real life is the princess that always dresses up, and the one who's the dress up in the show is the one who's the tomboy in real life. They play opposite of who they are.
That's true. That's very.
Yeah, and
People are born with a temperament, but their personality is what they make. It's what so they can get along well with the public. It's something different other than when you're at home. If you're different than you are around the world. Your temperament is always that way. And a lot of times there's even a third part of your mental personality or makeup, and that is what you were born into. Like Nick is born into an Italian family. And if you're quiet, they all have this high energy. You'll take that on as part of your personality or temperament. But when you get alone in your own private world, you revert back to what God created you.
Yeah. Well, the Tony at Town and Country is different from the Tony here. I mean, I go up, talk, tell jokes, and here I'm about 90% quieter. I've learned.
My core personality is the same on Monday as it is on Sunday.
Yeah.
I think when the Antichrist arrives here, he's going to be something that we all see as wonderful and warm, because Satan, of course, is the biggest pretender.
Yeah.
Deceiver, whatever you want to call it. My husband, wanted people to understand that when he was pastoring, that he was the same on Sunday morning as he was if you called him at 11 o'clock at night on Monday.
That's what I was going to say. If the best thing you can ever be is the same.
The same.
The same. That's, the old saying is, preachers of morality discourse like angels, but they tend to live like men. And we are human. But if Jesus had preached a Sermon on the Mount and they said, all right, boys, hold the crowd, me and Mary Magdalene go slip off somewhere, because that's the mentality of a lot of people nowadays is we're going to, don't do what I do, just do what I say, because what I say is right. The Gnostic Gospels was one of the first threats after the church started, and their view was, my body's impure and evil, but my spirit's pure, so it doesn't matter what my body does because it's going to be evil. But yet the Bible talks about bringing your body under subjection. If you're not a saint when you're alive, you'll never be a saint when you're dead. Saint simply means one who's called out, a called out. Apostle is a sent one. A saint is a called out one. He addresses the saints in the churches. It's not some higher up that's had a vision. It's every person. Who knows you ever heard of the Didache? You know what the Didache is? The Didache is something that would probably solve a lot of problems in the church today. In the first century church, I think, or maybe second, but they would once a month, I think, maybe once a week, they would all dress in white and have a meal together. But if you were knowingly doing something wrong, they wouldn't let you in. If you had aught against your brother, they wouldn't let you in. They said, you need to go fix this. You need to go make this right. Who's looked into the Azusa Street revival? Some? Oh man, y'all don't know what you're missing. You might as well do that now because you're looking into your future as far as I'm concerned. And there's one guy that was going there, and he was a pastor, and he was going to go there for a service, and he started to walk in the door, and it's like he started walking again. He's like, no. And God said, you just had a fight with your wife. You go home and fix that. And then you come back. I've had on occasion to, because I don't want to Satan's beat me enough, and I don't want to, do my stupidity or my arrogance or pride. So I've had to call people and apologize, knowing that they said things about me that they didn't apologize for. I've learned over the years to keep my mouth shut, because going back and asking for forgiveness for somebody who don't care if or not is painful. It hurts. It hurts your pride as much as anything else. You better just keep your mouth shut. I've said this before, but this is but this is an eerie test. If you're in a group of people, just average people, and somebody says something and it pops in your mind something irreverent to say, and you just clamp down on yourself, within seconds, somebody will say the exact thought that came through your mind.
Really?
Try it. Now, I don't work in an atmosphere like this, or it shouldn't, but just being just a normal crowd of people. That's it. But anyway, all right. Return of a Wayward Son. Oh, I see that my youngest daughter's watching here. I want to say something that we were talking yesterday, and she had said that the night that Sister Betty passed, or the day that Sister Betty passed, that night she had a dream. And here's what she experienced in the dream. She said, we were walking from the back of the church, which is here, where they always serve food, and we were in that little hallway between the back and where the pews are. And I grabbed her arm and said, what are you doing here? You just died this morning. And she was so happy. She had the smile on her face the whole dream, like she was floating on cloud nine. She said, I'm just here visiting everyone, but I'm not sure if they see me. Will you please tell everyone how happy I am? And I said, absolutely. And that's when the dream cut off.
Wendy, thank you for sharing that.
So,
That was her dream?
yeah.
It's our dream, Wendy's dream.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But, my daughter seems to have inherited because God deals with me in dreams too. When Angel passed away, she was Wendy's best friend, and it was hard on her. And then, she woke up one night and she said she had a dream about Angel, and she went to her and said, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And Angel looked at her and says, you don't understand how happy I am now. So those things like that.
She was here for a purpose.
She was here. Yeah. And, sometimes life, I'll never forget. I got a little glimpse of what people that have probably heard people from hell sound like, because the day they called her into the office at the high school, and I had to tell her that her best friend just died. I heard the most guttural scream I've ever heard in my life. And you got to think, and it's hard on Miss Lee too. When I'm out there, I grow sorghum, I grow millet, I shock it all up, I sell it for fall decorations. But when I'm out there gathering it, not every stalk is the same. And it's, the foxtail millet, the German millet. There's things out there. There's one out there I'm gathering. I'm trying to get the biggest and the tallest for my customers. And there's some out there, they're about half the height, but they've got their head of seeds is just as big and beautiful as those that are tall. And I'll take those too, because everything in a whole makes up more beauty. It's not just this and then this, it's fruit all the way up. And I think about Lisa, I think about Angel, I think about, and even Sister Betty, we've got Angel's head of grain here, Lisa's head of grain here, Betty's head of grain up here, and it makes a beautiful, beautiful, what a beautiful decoration. Okay. So when people seem to get cut short sometimes, you understand that perhaps their stalk is not as long, but their fruit is just as beautiful. All right. Considering the animosity shown to Jesus by religious leaders, he demonstrated patience as he taught them the principles of God's kingdom and the love of God. Unfortunately, most of these listening did not comprehend how they themselves were referenced in his teachings. Yes, yet Jesus' love for them was unwavering. We too sometimes have a blind spot in applying Jesus' teaching to our lives as we approach this study. Let's pray that we will see others and ourselves as he does. Jesus welcomed into salvation and discipleship all who are willing to follow him by faith. This bothered those who are criticizing his interaction with sinners. To illustrate God's joy over all who turn to him and to confront leaders with their own wrong ideas about whom God loves, Jesus told 3 parables. The first 2 dealt with lost sheep, the lost coin. The third, often called the parable of the prodigal son, is the most detailed use of broken family to reflect the individual's broken relationship with God, as well as God's deep desire for restoration to take place. Who's raised animals in here? What are the 2 most important animals on the farm at any one time?
Chickens and cows.
No, the one that's missing or the one that's sick.
Amen.
The rest of them are just walking around being sheep or cows or chickens or whatever. But, when the one's gone, I mean, I don't go out there. I got 14 sheep. I don't go out there and say, there's 12 or 13. It's good enough. There's been times I've had to walk everywhere, look in brush piles, look in ditches, check ponds, you know, see if are they hung in a fence, are they hung up, you know. You don't just say, we're close enough here, you know, or one that's, you know, they're all bouncing around and happy, and then one's head's drooping, ears dragging, and, you know, it's like, okay, we can't have this, you know, we got to get this situation fixed. It's just like the, you know, coin, you know, it's like my payment's $100, but I got 99. I got to find that dollar because they won't take 99 and be gracious, you know. Okay. The parable of the prodigal son works on so many levels, and I recently found out something about this parable that actually shocked me. But you know, in its truest sense, I believe it's the church being the older son and Israel being the younger son that's coming back.
Israel being the younger son.
In its truest sense, but it works on so many levels with just us and our lives and people going away and coming back. You know, the prodigals. That's one thing that a lot of people have been saying this year, that this is the year that the prodigals come home. And so looking forward to that. But the who thinks that the older son plays the victim here? Okay, he wasn't. There's a lot of the church, they've wrote in replacement theology where they've wrote Israel completely out of the picture. They say the church has replaced Israel, gone. You know, no. I was talking to a guy one time and talking about how, you know, you want to bless Israel. And he was like, you know, the Bible says to bless Abraham, you know, I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. And he was like, oh, no, it's only through Jesus. Abraham is totally irrelevant. Israel's irrelevant. Like, well, you can believe what you want to. Don't make it right or, you know, wrong. But I've always hung on to God told the older son, says, well, all that I have, I'm always with you. You're always with me, and all that I have is yours. But you look at the wording. When the younger son said, give me my portion, let me go, or give me my portion now, it says he divided it to them both. And the older son, being older, got the double portion. Okay, so this whole time that the young son is gone, he took a third of the money of the estate, livestock, probably sold it, whatever, or his dad paid him money for it. And the other son got the 2/3 of it, got the lion's share of it. And yet he's upset about two things. You never even gave me a kid. And the father says, everything I have is yours. In other words, you own it. You could have ate a kid anytime you want. You're just too cheap. And he's probably upset because that was probably his calf that they had killed.
Oh, I see.
You know,
here's the other thing too. Being the oldest, and I don't know if anybody else here's the oldest child in their family, when your parents make over one of the others, the oldest, I know I did this when I was younger, I'd get angry. My dad always favored my brothers. I had no sisters. You know, one of my brothers said something to me when I was probably 40 or so. It really hit me. You were not raised by the same people we were.
Oh, they changed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really honestly hadn't thought about it until then. And a lot of you are going to say that explains a lot. And I say this next thing. I never got a spanking in my entire life from my parents. My grandmother's, on the other hand, you know, that's a different story. But my parents, my mother didn't believe in spanking, and my father thought it was my mother's job to discipline daughters.
Yeah.
So, therefore, as my brother put it, I was brought up totally spoiled. And when one of my brothers, my dad has invested probably close to $250,000 in this boy, trying to get him into rehab, you know, and it lasts for about a year, and then he'd go right back. Well, he's 60 years old, and he's still going, you know, he still, as my father very nicely and sweetly puts it, well, you know, David self-medicates. My dad was a very harsh man, though, growing up. He had certain expectations of my brothers, and he was mean. He was a drill sergeant in his real life, and he was a the same at home. I mean,
Probably different in his older age, though.
yeah.
Me personally, I was the neglected middle son.
You were the neglected what?
I was the neglected middle son,
Charles says that. He said, you should have been a middle kid. You're a middle kid. Nobody, you weren't neglected at all. You were great.
My brother came along when I was 10 years old. My mom was in her 30s. My dad was, in his 30s. And children of old age are just more special. I mean, even the Bible bears that out. Children of old age are just more special. And for the last 20 years of my life, my dad called me Jason. Or, hey, you,
Well,
Tony, yeah.
Deborah is 8 years younger than her brother, and her sister's 3 years younger than her.
Yeah.
I was almost 40 when she was born. So we really spoiled those last two girls.
Mhm.
We did.
Well, and personalities change. I mean, that's one thing that I think that everybody would probably agree with. The best thing about grandkids is the fact that you've learned to pick your fights.
Yep.
Or even by the fourth or fifth kid, you've learned to pick your fights. You learn what's worth fighting over and what's not worth fighting over. And it's one thing I did learn, I would like to pass on, and it's very biblical, is the fact that it says the rod of discipline. Spare the rod. Okay. Now, that don't mean you take a stick or a belt and beat them to death. But I grew up in a family where you just spanked them. You just pull them up, hand of discipline to the seat of knowledge, board of education, whatever. And that's just what I was brought up. I probably never had to spank my kids after the first couple. It was just like if I hit the brake at the car, they was like, okay, done, start. Don't make me stop this car. Yeah. All right, Daddy, I'm sorry. But the rod, a wooden spoon, a belt, flip-flop, whatever, is for discipline. This is for love. These are for love. Your children should never shrink back if your hand come up quickly. So I wouldn't have disciplined unless it was just I would have grabbed a wooden spoon or took a belt off or something, and never left a mark. It was so funny. This is, I guess, let's just call this Wendy telling a story today since she's watching. There was Mackenzie, was going through a hard time. She hadn't met Brandon yet, and she just like every other person out there, you don't want to be alone. And she was just like, back in her bedroom crying. And she said the one thing that just irritated me, made me fly off my handle. And she said, I just wish I could die. And I palmed my hand flat and hit it with everything inside me. And it sounded like a gunshot going off almost. I mean, it was loud. And we got through that. I told her, don't say that, sweetheart. Listen, you're just 17 years old. 16 years. You're going to find somebody. And I come out in the living room, and Wendy's gone. That's all around the house. Can't find her. And I go outside and look, and she's walking up and down the street in front of the house. I said, get in here. She said, no, you're going to hit me like you did Mackenzie. I was like, I did not hit your sister. If I'd have hit her that hard, we'd be going to the doctor right now. So perceptions.
Oh, my 18-month-old, lovely oldest daughter, when she was 18 months old, fell down some stairs that she was not supposed to be on and had been told repeatedly, do not climb those stairs.
Mm-hmm.
There's some outside stairs. They were concrete metal structure, and I just knew she'd fall down. She come out the door, and I hollered at her. She's about 3 steps up. She fell down and hit her head. It was in her, so we went to the emergency room. She gets to the emergency room, and the doctor said, well, how did that happen? No, this is an 18-month-old. She said, Mama did it. I thought this getting all the way around.
Oh, wow.
My neighbor that was up above told DFS, well, she hollered at her to get off the stairs, and it made her startled, and she fell down. And she said, well, the little girl keeps saying, Mama did it. And my neighbor was up, and the lady started laughing. She said, well, I guess in the way she did, she hollered at her. That's what made her fall.
Yeah, I think that, most people with their first child have them in the emergency room so much they're scared to heck of DHS getting them. And the second child is like, she ain't bleeding. Or he ain't bleeding. Here, come here.
Their brother,
Rub dirt on it.
To the emergency room one time, fell, and I thought he needed tetanus shot. He was about 3, and the doctor looked at me and he says, really a nurse. You know what the T and ET stands for? And I'm like, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. And he said, so does your child need? And I said, yes. And this was an older doctor who had retired and he only worked part-time at the Yaleville Hospital, which is now, of course, non-existent. And he looked at me and he went, take him home and give him a bath.
Yeah. All right. We are, you know what? 10 minutes behind, but I'd rather be 10 minutes behind than listen to y'all talk and have fun interacting with y'all. But Lonnie, get the scriptures before we get too late.
You want me to come up there?
If you want.
Is it on recorded?
Yeah, we're being recorded. We're giving Big Brother every chance to listen in on us.
You're not gonna make fun of me or nothing.
No more than usual.
Tall grain, short grain.
Yes. And we just keep you around to put the star on the Christmas tree.
Luke 15:11. To illustrate the point further, Jesus told this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of the estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money while living. Verse 15, he persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into the field to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him. So no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. But his father said to his servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put on him. Get a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast. For the son of mine was dead and is now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. So the party began. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field working. When he returned home, he heard music, dancing in the house. The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him. But he replied, all these years I have slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do or told me to. And in all that time, you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. His father said to him, look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. And we had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, and now he is found.
There's not many people who come to Sunday school that aren't serving God. But we also, I forget sometimes we have an audience up there that I have no idea where they're at, or are they in Christ, are they not? Are they just tuning in because they know me, or are they just kind of bored and nothing good's on TV? But I can't think of a more appropriate lesson to give an invitation. And this is going to be out there from now on. And this may hit somebody. This is 1/9/22. This may hit somebody 5 years from now. pray that God would send this to the right person at the right time. You know, if you are in dire straits, if you're thinking of taking your own life, if you're sure of where to go and you feel backed up against the wall, remember that God is right here. And he's as close as the mention of his name. And all you need to do, he's rich in mercy to all who call out to him. So reach out to Jesus. Okay. You know, this class is to help to dig out deep things and to help people walk that walk. But before you walk that walk, you've got to get in with the master. And that is, you've got to believe that Jesus is who he says he is, that he was crucified, killed for your sins, that he was raised on the third day, and that he's seated at the right hand of the Father right now. And that is going to be your foundation. That is going to secure your eternity. So if you've not made that decision, make that decision. If you've not had anybody to talk to, if you got questions, don't hesitate to contact me privately. And the thing is, the more you like, comment, or share this, the more people it's going to reach. And like I said, pray God that it reached the right person at the right time. There's videos out there of people saying, "Don't get that abortion," that years later found their way to the right person right before they're going to get an abortion. Don't kill yourself. 5 years later, hit somebody sitting on the edge of the bed contemplating suicide. God can take this and use it at whatever point he wants to. But the thing is, just cry out to him. And even if you've got away from him, be like that prodigal and wake up. Because sometimes we think, okay, well, my life, if I could just cast off this thing of serving God, I could get drunk when I wanted, I could get high when I wanted, I could sleep around with who I wanted to, and I could do anything I want. And then people take that route of the prodigal son, and then they realize the best life isn't that. It's not. I mean, go around and, dope has tried to kill many people. Okay. What seemed fun, eventually, I like the way Mike Warrington put it. He said, after a while, you're not doing dope, dope's doing you. And you don't do it for have fun, you do it to stay healthy. Okay. Think, well, if I'm not a Christian, I could just sleep around with it. Listen, after you've had your fourth, fifth, 10th, 15th, 20th bedroom experience, how do you feel about that now? How do you feel about yourself now? And this is not a condemnation thing, but this is a come out of it thing, because it's not your best life. It's not. Okay. So anyway, like, comment, share, contact me, contact our church, whatever you'd like to do. And, if you're local here and you don't belong to another church, come and see us. Thanks for watching.